Sorry, battery died. And I'm sure that many other people of varying levels of fame have held similar experiences. I have experienced it or observed it or read about it numerous times online. There's plenty of people with varying levels of fame on Instagram or whatever social following they have or whatever. And it's clear that most likely however they're depicted based on whatever they put forth, I'm sure that whenever people actually meet them or whenever people actually talk to them or when people think of them or talk about them online or wherever, they almost 100% think that whatever's put out there is 100% how that person is in real life. Um, and they assume things like, oh, this guy has to have a great life because he has all this stuff going on um, online, and like there's so many people on Instagram who I'm pretty sure they're putting out these photos, and they have a million followers, and their life's nothing like that 99% of the time. They're just putting out these photos, and all you see are these hundreds of photos online, and you assume things, and it's a very ignorant thing to do, and you know, you partially can't even blame them because it's like, how can they even know about this? Um, and it can be a very stupid thing to do. Having said that, though, there's plenty of people out there who also seem to do very well with this fame. Ellen DeGeneres, Jackie Chan, who, if you go to the Asian parts of the world, um, do just as well, you know, with all that fame. And if you go to those Asian parts, apparently Jackie Chan is just as mobbed, if not more mobbed, than Michael Jackson was um, in certain areas of China and the Asian areas of the world. He's that famous there. You won't even believe it. And he does really well. He's pretty happy and he's doing really well. So certain people can deal with it. Ellen DeGeneres, um, uh, all these people, they seem to have found some sort of way to handle all of this and do very well. They don't seem to mind. They deflect any sort of anonymous uh, or hateful comments on the internet from people they don't know. And then they're just very charismatic, very happy. Oftentimes they're very humorous in person. I feel like a sense of comedy helps with that sense of humor. But yeah, before I get too off track, let's go back to the story. So that happened about 6 months ago in a nutshell. Then very recently, in the past week or so, Shia Labeouf, he has started. He made one statement in an interview, and to sum it up, he said that a female went into the room and raped him while he was in it. And basically, he's apparently, again, all we said was this statement, so it's kind of vague what it means, but apparently she whipped his legs, I guess with the whip in the room, for 10 minutes. From there, he I guess she took off his plastic bag, and actually I don't know if he actually took it off, but basically they uh, they had sexual encounters, and this occurred for a while, and then she left the room with lipstick smeared all over her face, and apparently uh, the news spread somehow. We don't know how. It's I guess it's the only way is because the female started telling other people when she left, and then apparently his girlfriend was 20 people behind this woman in line, and then when his girlfriend came in, he couldn't say anything, and from there it was just a very awkward silence when this girlfriend knew something had happened and she was asking all these questions and he couldn't say a thing. and it was all horrible. The whole thing was horrible. Um, so that's how he paints the picture. And from there, Piers Morgan, who's he used to be a judge on America's Got Talent. Now he's got his own show, replacing uh, Larry King Live, Piers Morgan Live, and it's on CNN. And so uh, he started tweeting out these things. He said it was the whole thing was preposterous. He says it's making a joke of actual rape victims, and that this whole thing's ridiculous. And he said that um, a Hollywood star with a plastic bag over his head um, is not actual rape. And based on his tweet, his whole point that he was implying was that this is not rape because he had full control to defend himself and stop this thing from happening, not letting it go for however long this went for. Um, so that was the whole story in a nutshell. And then Piers Morgan has been recently tweeting out other stuff to the supervisors and managers of the event, asking, well, why didn't you step in and stop this thing? And from their responses, it seems like they didn't know what was going on, and then by the time they figured it out, the female had already left the building, so they couldn't do anything. Piers Morgan was like, why did you let this person escape? And they were just like, we didn't know what was going on. By the time we knew, she had already run out. She ran out. She didn't just walk out. And I guess that implies that there was no video surveillance of the room while this was taking place. And I mean, okay, now begins my sort of quick analysis of this. First off, the whole art exhibit, I feel like it was a very brave thing to do. There's a lot of, I feel like, well, not a lot, but there's this one article I read that, really irked me a bit. It was by this man, and he pretty much just like subtly trashed the whole thing. He was like, this man's seeking attention. He's mentally unstable. Um, this whole thing was just completely just to seek attention. As a publicity stunt. There's no point to this whole thing. It's just ridiculous. Um, and on top of that, he's just using it as some sort of pity art exhibit to gain sympathy and attention and support after this whole plagiarism scandal. And by plagiarism scandal, what I mean is that before even this art exhibit, apparently what had happened was that he had done this little film, and Shia had apparently been accused of plagiarism in it, and there's a huge outlash to it on Twitter and so forth. And he actually incorporated this into his art exhibit by having a bowl of little pieces of paper with hateful tweets directed at Shia Labeouf for plagiarizing this other piece of work in creating this film. And again, my research on it is not as super detailed as could potentially be. But I did what I could. There's too many articles and stuff to read. And I mean, I definitely could have done more. But apparently, from what I know, uh, uh, basically, Shia LaBeouf had uh, created this film, and when he was accused of plagiarism, the response was that it, his response was that this was I did not fully consider all the again and I'm paraphrasing here. I did not fully consider the complete accreditation process in acknowledging the proper people in my inspiration while in my creative process. And I feel like that whole thing was a whole case of just, I guess you could call it, a lot of people draw inspiration from other artists, and oftentimes their works end up resembling those other authors or artists to a very severe extent. And I feel like this is where the lines blur between what's plagiarism and what's not. And unfortunately, it seems like he was very good-hearted in this whole thing. It wasn't like he deliberately tried to plagiarize this, knowing how bad it was. It happens a lot of time if you've ever tried composing anything or creating a song or piece of artwork. You realize after making it or while you're making it that, oh my goodness, this is completely or 80% based off this song I've heard on the radio, or this song I knew about for a while. And so it is very difficult to sort of disentangle that sort of thing. And I feel like the lines blur between what's plagiarism and what's not. And sometimes you can go too far and it's very clear that's pure plagiarism. Other times it's like, how can you really tell? In effect, almost most forms of artwork can be based off something else, but not always. There is always innovation as well. So it gets tough to differentiate. And sometimes masterpieces, a lot of great songs, successful songs, sample other songs, but again, it's not complete copycats. They're actually, they give credit for the sampling. So, who knows? So there's that whole thing there. And again, I have to give credit for him for doing this art exhibit because, he could have gotten any sort of response. I don't know if I would have been able to do that. Like, that would have been the last thing on my mind to do, if the whole point of the exhibit was to spread the message that you were fed up with all this hate or attention or paparazzi or whatever it was, because you were pretty much opening yourself to 5 full days of onslaught from the full public. You could have gotten all this hate, all this other stuff that would have just damaged your psychological psyche even more, put you even further down. God knows what they could have potentially said or done, and all this ridiculous stuff. But apparently, he remarked in an interview that Shia LaBeouf was very much surprised at actually what a lot of the people did when they came in. He was expecting a lot more hate, but surprisingly, he got a lot of long hugs. He got a lot of people patting him on the back and saying, "It's gonna be okay, hold on, stick it through," and all this other stuff. And the whole thing, this whole thing is just so ridiculous because you're looking at, look, this is a man who's, you would think he's got it all, or he's got a lot of great things. He's put 120% in this skill, this art form that he's dedicated his life to, gotten very successful financially and very successful creating these films and all these big films, met all these ridiculously awesome, intelligent, creative, amazing people, all this stuff. And here he is, apparently when he did this exhibit, when people took off the plastic bag, he was crying. There's literally tears running down his eyes through this whole thing. And later on, he actually went on the red carpet with the same bag for photographs. So it's this whole thing. Again, there's probably more details to the picture. Is he really unhappy, or is this just a publicity stunt? I doubt it was a complete publicity stunt. I do think he was unhappy to a certain extent. Who knows what other troubles he had, or the whole point of this was. I actually did a lot of research trying to figure out this whole point of this exhibit. Couldn't really find a lot. It was very much implicit. So there's that. Now on to this whole rape incident. I think, I've thought about it a lot, and I do think that it could go either way. It could be that it's a whole stunt. I have a feeling it's not completely a whole stunt, but there's also the whole possibility that it isn't completely 100% rape. There could have been, I'm not saying there probably was, there could have been a 20-30% subconscious thing where he wanted it to happen. Or maybe it was 80%. It could have gone either way to an extreme. It could have been the whole thing was consensual, and now he has laid it out as a rape, either for protection of his girlfriend or to make the incident public, uh, to appease his girlfriend even more. Maybe his girlfriend was like, well, if it's a rape, then why aren't you filing charges? Why haven't you made this public? Or there's the other extreme where it was completely 100% a rape. Now, Piers Morgan, this man with millions of Twitter followers, is obviously hating against this. And, people have their entitlement to these variety of opinions because sometimes this variety helps in putting forth all the potential possibilities rather than just everyone just thinking that there's one. Um, but I don't completely agree with him with this one-sided belief that it's just it can't be a rape whatsoever. It's just a publicity stunt. And again, at the end of the day, I hope people in the comments don't go too crazy, or because it's at the end of the day, it's just such a trivial thing. Like, we should more be worried about like other things, politics, our safety, what Obama's doing, how nonprofit charity organizations are fighting poverty. That sort of important stuff, not this ridiculous gossipy celebrity stuff. But again, it is a very important thing about society and how things have changed. And I think ultimately we are advancing in spreading awareness that rape is not just something that females get, um, or and we are getting better at achieving justice for rape victims, because anytime in our past we were worse off. We, rapers got away with it. We didn't have the technology or forensics to catch them. The legal system didn't even care. All this stuff. So we're advancing, and again, there's thousands of cases in the past that have probably gotten away scot-free in the distant past. And I definitely think it's a good thing, for sure, that nowadays things are getting much, much better along these lines. I, for one, it's just like, I just think rape is like so petty. It's like, I would very much feel more content with someone liking me for me, not because of my money, not because of not because they were forced to like me or anything like that. Anyhow, I do think it's a potential possibility that Shia LaBeouf was raped, and it may be hard to see, but um, it's hard. It may be hard to see for someone who is not really engrossed in in the artistic side of them. But I can definitely understand it. I've definitely observed plenty of artists in the film industry, or the painting industry, or the art exhibit industry, or the music industry, who are very engrossed and so, dedicated to their roles in their exhibit or their film. Just think Christian Bale, when he was doing that whole film, I think it was Terminator, and he just started going ballistic when he got interrupted in like one of the most touching scenes of the film when he was filming it. You could get very much engrossed in dedicating this, because you need that sort of hardcore focus to achieve that ultimate product in the film. So I can definitely see him being so engrossed in this, that he had already dedicated that no matter what happens, I will give a blood oath that I will not talk or move or do anything for these 5 days of this I am sorry exhibit that I'm doing. And then, having given this blood oath, on the second day or whatever, he gets raped and he can't do anything about it because he's so engrossed in dedication to this role. Like, this is a man who would probably be that dedicated out of all the actors his age. Um, it's ridiculous. I mean, I definitely think he can be that dedicated. So we don't like. I will never know the details. I don't know what may have happened. Again, there's all this ridiculous stuff going on, and again, this apparently this was a female with a boyfriend. How did Shia LaBeouf know she had a boyfriend? The only way would have been if this female told him while she was raping him. Um, but again, like, who knows? And again, it's just atrocious. And at the same time, so ridiculous how females are. It's like, it kind of makes sense from a survival and reproduction and evolutionary biology standpoint. You want to mate with the the male who has the greatest resources so that your offspring have a higher chance of surviving, and therefore your genetics has a predisposition for you to cheat on your lesser quality boyfriend with a much more higher status, higher value mate of the opposite gender. It makes sense from a genetic predisposition standpoint, but from a standpoint of humans with some level of free will and self-restraint, it's like, come on, like, don't do that. It's so petty. You're better than that. Don't cheat on your boyfriend for something like that. It's just so ridiculous. um Plus, you're not going to get him pregnant. You're not going to get pregnant off of that. And even if you do, it's like, is that really worth it? So that's all we want to say in a nutshell. And the debate and battle urge is on, and it goes on and on and on. Ultimately, it's the whole thing's somewhat trivial at the end of the day. I mean, there's more important stuff. Bill Gates is probably doing much more important stuff right now with fighting malaria and his nonprofit charity organization. So don't worry too much about this. And don't fight too much in the comments. I'll see you guys later. As always, like, favorite, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in my next video. Check out my other videos on my channel. See ya.